Well, we're being televised now.
It's not unusual that we televise executions, Mr. Wordsworth. Last year in the mass executions, we televised around the clock. 1,300 people were put to death in less than 6 hours.
Now drop and give me 20.
History teaches you nothing.
Yes.
On the contrary, history teaches us a great deal. We had predecessors, Mr. Wordsworth,
You mean like
who had
Democrats?
the beginnings of the right
What the
idea.
hell is
But their
supposed to
era
do,
was
you
not one
moron?
of excess. It was simply not going far enough. Too many
You're kidding me.
undesirables were left
Okay,
around, and
this guy
undesirables
is the
eventually
real
form a
zero,
core of
that's
resistance.
It's worse than horrible because a zombie has no will of his own.
Don't
You see him
hassle the dead
sometimes,
boy.
walking around blindly
Yeah,
with dead eyes, following orders, not knowing what they do, not caring.
Spend a lot of time with these folks.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as
I'm
we.
beginning to smell a big fat commie rat.
I learned about roaches.
Incited the erection.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight...
Oh, you're a little speechless. You're nothing but a common thief.
When Corn Pop wasn't
I think he's in denial.
There we go, brother. That's one of the classics.
I'm horrified. What the heck? Was it two of them put together? Was it a new one?
No, it's just a mix. You call it what you will. Call it
You gave yourself billing. You didn't mention me.
You know what? It was that was a button I pushed the wrong button, but I fixed it.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Well, I think that one needs a lot of work.
Yeah. Okay. No, I agree.
Holy Spirit
so-
now sets.
Yes. Hello, brother. Hello, brother. Just so we know, that guy over there is my brother John, and I am Jim.
High speed politics. You get to be high speed politics. I get to be nobody.
Yeah, no, the high-speed politics was something I did a long time ago, but that's why it's one of the things I gotta update the inside of the format here. But so we have a big show for tonight. Tonight's the last show before the election. This election cycle is going to be a very important one. This is the prequel to the midterms. And so we need to make sure that we do very well this Tuesday coming up. So we have on the agenda, of course, we're going to be talking about the elections, and we're going to be talking about specifically here in New Jersey, because that's really our connection. But we're going to be talking about New York and also a little bit about Virginia. And then we're going to talk about schools, which is connected to the governor's race. But also we're going to be talking about China, right, brother?
And the shutdown.
And the shutdown. We can't not talk about the shutdown. So let's get rolling. We'll start off with the election. I first wanted to show you a couple maps. I think as we look at this, we can see the first map on those two maps that are nearly identical. This is all New Jersey. This is all looking at the same area. The map that's over here on the far side, on this side over here, that is the non-Hispanic Black population of New Jersey. All right, that's where you can see the darker the red, the more dense the population of they call it the non-Hispanic Black population. All right. And then the one next to it is the Hispanic population. Again, the darker the red, the more the density of the population. So I wanted to take a look here. If you look over here, this is the 2024 election, and you can see that the area on the screen is a lot more red. It's very, we've talked about this before. It's pinkish, a lot of more darker red here. The dark blue part here where Newark is, that of course is dark blue for Harris, but you can see in the suburb areas, and even actually I think in the ironbound section of Newark, it was voting, Trump won there. And we look over here, up here where my mouse is, that's where Patterson is. So the outer lying districts, that's, this is Bergen County over here on the right, Bergen County on the top above it. That is very, very Trump. So Trump won all these areas. That's important because we're going to be talking about that in a minute. When I look at the 2020 election, I'm going to jump in. It's the same image. You can see around Patterson, which is, here's Newark again, very blue, very blue. This entire area that was brown, or had some red, was all blue in 2020. Patterson is right up here. And again, this area around here now is blue from 2020. So if we go back between them, you can see there's a lot more Trump land than I would say the Democrat side. So the point, what's the point? The point is, in the areas, we know that Trump really pulled a percentage of the black population and the Hispanic population, and you can see that in the outcome in 2024. Why is that relevant? Well, as we look at I pulled this data, brother. Let me see if I can make it bigger for the screen. I pulled this data here. You can see the different counties on the left here, and this is in red. This is how much Harris went down from Biden. I mean, we could talk about the election, about him having Biden having 81 million votes, 16 million more than the most popular Democrat, Obama, right? We could talk about that. There being some discrepancy with that. We certainly could. We don't have to because we all understand that there's a discrepancy. But even still, Harris lost almost 200,000 votes in New Jersey from Biden's election to her loss in 2024. And as we look at the where over here on the right, you can see where Trump did better in all of those. All the green is where Trump went up, and significantly. You're looking at 51,000 votes. He went up. He went up 51,000 votes, and Harris dropped 200,000. So there's a 250,000 vote swing there. You can also see the purple are the flips. Those are the flip counties that went with Biden in 2020 and flipped to Trump in 2024. What does this all boil down to, brother? Because that's really what we want to get down to, is the meat of this. Is this election? And let me pull the real clear politics numbers. Where did I have those? The Real Clear Politics numbers. We had those where I had them. There they are. The Real Clear Politics numbers here. You can see got every single one of them have Cheryl winning, but in reality, we also understand, and I was reading the NJ.com today, they were saying that there's a hidden X factor that Jack has, and there is. They think it's because he's been campaigning and he's been doing retail politics. That does help. He's been doing legit retail politics going on. I think he has the same pluses that Trump does, and I say that two things. First, the article said that Jack is doing well despite Trump being on his side. So we have to face the narrative of the typical Democrat news / Democrat in New Jersey, which believes that Trump is bad and Trump is not bringing anything to the table. He's a drag. In fact, he's a drag for a candidate. And I don't have to be a Republican to know that that's wrong. All I have to do is look at, he made a commitment, he followed through on a commitment, and he's been meeting every campaign promise he put out there. Love him or hate him, you understand where he's coming from. But the biggest thing, and one of the reasons why he did so well, is because he's authentic. He's an authentic person when he presents himself. You don't have to hide from that. And that is one of Jack's strongest traits. He's authentic. And the best thing for him isn't just that he's authentic, it's that his opponent, just like Harris was for Trump, is the exact opposite of being authentic. We know that Nikki Sherrill, she cheated on her, or she was involved in a cheating scandal and didn't graduate or didn't walk with the graduation. We know that she has no real plan. We know that she tripled her wealth within the 6 years that she was in Congress. Amazingly, the NJ.com and news media threw down and says, "Oh no, it's because her husband is in stock trading and he is really good." Except for John, the 20 years prior to him, before she got into Congress, he was mediocre at best, and he didn't do really well. Then amazingly, she becomes a congresswoman and is sitting on the House Defense Committee, and she somehow is able to triple. He's somehow able to triple their wealth, despite the fact that according to the New York Times, she was called out for some improprieties that she was, and she can't answer any questions when she does this on the Breakfast Club. She fumbles the ball and it makes herself seem more loony than usual. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing a candidate in Cheryl who is lackluster at best, and while she's raised a lot more money, just like Harris did, she's bringing in a lot of big names. Once again, we get the lecturer in chief, Barack Obama, coming in and telling everybody that they should, vote for her. I want to play, if I can, a clip from her. Where is that? Nope, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Here it is. I got it. I just want to play this, if I can. We should. Oh, we didn't check the sound to see if you could hear, brother. But tell me if you can hear this.
I want you to be able to afford to live in New Jersey and build something. I want all your kids to have great opportunities. I want to make sure everyone here has a shot in this state. So I'm fighting. I'm fighting for Chuck, a small business owner in Gloucester, getting crushed by tariffs.
Tariffs have raised $1.2 trillion and have actually provided the money in order to fund the government right now, while the Democrats are not doing it.
Tariffs are the reason not having tariffs. All the I'm getting
Go ahead.
feedback. Yeah.
Hold on.
I'm fighting for Karina, a single mom here in Newark, who isn't sure if she can afford to stay and raise her son in New Jersey.
The reason why she can't afford to raise her son in New Jersey is because because the high cost that Phil Murphy, the guy she's gonna have to follow the same policies on, is there. The Democrat policies that have been plaguing New Jersey for the last 20 years. That's why these people can't live here in New Jersey anymore. She completely ignores that. Here's some more.
I'm fighting for Bob, a lot of us. I'm fighting for Bob, a veteran, and Kate May, who's worried about his data privacy. I'm fighting. This
is, again, brother, the same people who ordered the spying on our senators, Republican senators. Remember that? Who's done the spying on American citizens? Not the Republicans, but the Democrats. A couple more.
For Regina in Trenton, who lost her son Trayvon to gun violence. And I'm fighting for Sequoia in Jersey City, who pays 70% of her income in rent and can't get ahead.
And so I'll leave it at that, brother. But I just want to point out those two things: gun violence and the cost of living. The reason why it's 70% going to paying for her rent has everything to do with the sanctuary state that we're living in, which has brought in all the illegals into our state, and they've attracted them, and they've sucked up the housing. I had to explain this to a friend of mine. Sucked up the housing, and it's where the low income housing is now being filled by people who are illegal and taking advantage of the system and getting the EBT cards that for them instead of for the people who are Americans, and taking away their apartments. So these people who ordinarily the needy Americans, the safety net, which would have caught them, it's being eaten up by the same people that the Democrats are trying to bring into the country and protect with sanctuary state nonsense. Which I would also point out, as a sanctuary state, we've attracted all the criminal illegal aliens into our country or into our state. And that's why we have child porn. We have child porn illegal aliens. We have rapist illegal aliens. We have murdering illegal aliens. And it's from all groups. And let's not forget the, was it 3 million military age Chinese males, because you'll be talking about that later, who came into our country and are spread out through the entire country. Between here and California, they have in fact become the homes and the attraction for the illegals. So, brother, I hear what she's saying, and this is actually the Obama. He came into the state to help rally. It doesn't look like a big crowd. Doesn't look like a huge crowd. But again, he's the lecturer in chief. So I guess what I'm boiling this all down to, brother, and you don't have feedback anymore, right?
I don't know.
No more feedback?
Oh, I don't have feedback. Nope.
So what it all boils down to is we have this incredibly incompetent, lying person who has no plan, no agenda. She hates Trump. She's her whole agenda is the same as the rest of the Democrat. Trump is evil. Trump is evil. Trump is evil, and we're going to make sure we go after Trump. She would be better off staying in Congress if that's what she wanted, because then she could try to do some impeachment. Being a governor, she's not going to be able to do a damn thing to go after Trump. She's just going to sue and use our taxpayer money to do that. So I welcome the fact that she's going to be back in Congress after Tuesday's election, because I see her losing. I see her losing because I think, despite the fact that when we look at those polls, those are all we all know the polls are skewed to the left, A, and B, we also know that Jack is authentic, and people don't want to say they're voting for Jack, just like they didn't want to say they voted for Trump. And it's the same story, and it's all going to hinge on, I'll tell you what, John, you can go to bed after you see Passaic County come in and Bergen County, you can go to bed. And Middlesex and Union, if you see them breaking strongly towards Jack, night's over for Cheryl. She can go home, because that's where she's going to get her votes. She needs to get her votes there.
So for New Jersey, it's always been 1/3 is Republican, 1/3 is Democrat, and 1/3 is, quote, independent, which is really just the Republicans who are tired of being called racist and don't want to be called racist, so they hide and call themselves, quote, independent. The question, though, is like, in our DSM-5, there has to be a category for Trump deranged syndrome, right? And it's like a test. Like, you can ask somebody, when you talk to your friend or your family member, he says, do you believe that Trump said that there are good Nazis, right? And say, do you believe Charlottesville, right? You can take it to. Do you believe that Trump was colluding with the Russians? Russia. Now you have to prove to him. Say, listen, that's actually a lie. It's not true. It's Democrat propaganda, and you're the victim of a psyops. Okay, the CIA, the deep state, are allowed to have propaganda in America thanks to that scumbag Obama, and some of that is filtered through now, and it's because you have a monopoly of the ABC, CBS, blah blah blah, from the media. You have all these poor people walking around with Trump derangement syndrome. Now it's fading. The derangement is fading. because of course it's it has to come in reality, and the reality is Trump is a sweetheart and one of the greatest human beings that there ever was, and probably the best president we ever had. All due respect to George Washington. So you can see it the last time, New Jersey, raised up almost what, 4 or 5
Abraham
points?
Lincoln, John, and Abraham Lincoln.
Well, we'll talk about that. But so the question though is, I just like this. We just had 10 months of the greatest presidency we've ever seen. All the illegals are being kicked out of America because and it's surprise 2 million illegals are unemployed, and 2 million poor Americans are employed now, right? So you can see that. So you can see the lifting of reality imposing itself, and the lifting of the Trump derangement syndrome. And you call him he's an anti-Semite, he's a fascist, he's a Nazi. Well, the Nazi just saved Israel by stopping the mullahs in Iran bombing Israel off the map. So this is it's reality imposing itself. It says, well, wait a minute, I thought he said that there were good neo-Nazis. No, he didn't. That's all false. That's a lie told by the evil propaganda Democrat Party, and propagated by the partisan hacks pretending to be journalists, and not having any competition on the airwaves. So will it have faded enough? Will the Trump derangement syndrome faded enough for the average New Jerseyan to turn around going, why are we listening to this fool about tariffs? He was right about the tariffs. Paul Krugman has been wrong about everything he's ever said. The Enron economist is a fraud, right? Why do we listen to these fools? Tariffs haven't done anything bad. They're increasing 16%. Industrial jobs are up 16, an unheard of 16%. Unheard of. And we're back to loser Obama, with his 1% GDP growth, said, oh, you have to get a magic wand. Well, Trump had it in the first one at 3%, and this year we're back up again at 3% growth, 3% GDP growth, right? And so you get the idiot Jerome Powell scumbag and the idiot Fed out of the way, and this economy is going to soar, right? The question is, has the last 10 months been enough to wake up New Jersey? And I guess we're going to find out. Now, for Virginia and New York City, Virginia, I love Virginia. I love Winsome Sears in a lot of ways. Marine, Jamaican, pro-gun, great. But she's a rough candidate. That debate was horrible. She wouldn't let the other side talk. She was acting like a spoiled child. You can't do that, right? On the other side, you got somebody running for the attorney general who fantasized about murdering the opposition. No way should that person be anywhere near a judicious spot like the AG for a state, right? So that's up. We'll see. Now there's a lot of the problem with that is you're going to see a lot of it go the other way, because of course 7 of the richest counties in the world are right around Washington D.C. because of the corruption and the graft, and now they're all suffering, and now there's all kinds of unemployment because Trump's doing the greatest thing ever. Fuck you, Rand Paul. Excuse my language. Fuck you, Tom Massey. You assholes. You fake fraudsters. He's destroying the actual the boot on the American neck, which is the federal government. They're down 11% before the shutdown, before the government shutdown. He's doing the impossible. So I don't think we're going to win Virginia. Now over in New York City, this is something that we should not get crow about, because one of the problems we can see is that after Trump, unless he gets to be third term, which I'm all for, right?
Yeah. We can see that. We can see that. Let's be honest. Right. We can see that.
And it would be even better would be Obama versus Trump, right? That needs to happen. Right. That really needs to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah,
that really needs to happen, right? That comeuppance needs to happen, right? Because everybody's going to say, you know what? Why do we want this loser, hate American creep Obama back in? With his big Mike wife. We got the greatest president we ever had after 3 years of this, and economy soaring. But so this is not a good thing what's happening in New York City, because it shows a weakness in the demographics for us going forward in all the polling. And if you look close into breakdown of all the pollings, what you see is the disaffected young people. The scumbag Democrat Party has destroyed America, right? And when they lie, when this scum Mandami, lies about, it's going to be free healthcare, it's going to be free food, it's going to be free bus rides, right? Hey, ass, there ain't no free lunch. Someone's got to pay for that, and you're just going to destroy the economy more. You've already destroyed it over the last 40 years. But the problem is these poor kids can't find housing. They can't get enough money up to buy a house because they're struggling with the debt that they have to these Frankfurt School Marxist scum and all these colleges, right? They can't find decent jobs because scumbag George Bush, the Wall Street Journal, and Bill Clinton, and the scumbag Democrat sold all our jobs over to China, right? And we don't have enough tariffs in there to protect us. And so these generations are suffering horribly for some demagogue creep to come along with and exploit their pain and suffering. Right. And that's the danger, right? This is going to be a wake-up call to the Democrat Party, and this is the way they're going to go. They're going to go AOC, Bernie. Now, AOC and Bernie are the biggest frauds on the face of the planet. The last hurricane down in Puerto Rico,
her name is Sandy.
Sandy, rich, spoiled, Haldego, wannabe, aristocracy. Sandy Cortez is worth $20 million selling out her position, right?
She's a bartender, John. How'd she get that $20 million?
She's claiming, because of investment. She's claiming that that Trump wants to kill her grandma. Hey, ass. Go save your own goddamn grandmother, you jerk. You're worth $20 million, right? So that clown, just like the left, just like the right has these fraudsters on the right who are just ginning up people. Oh, you're a 3%er. Oh, we got to have libertarianism, the Losertarian Party on the right, just a grift, stealing money. Rand Paul and Tom Massey. You got it on the left, Bernie Sanders and AOC, right? They've been just grifters all this time. But the scary thing is that a message is going to resound. You're going to see this Mandami message going to resound, and you're going to see that rebounding on the Democrat right now. The flip side of that is that all the rest of us who are experienced in life are going to go, that ain't happening, dude. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Somebody's got to pay for that. You're just gonna hobble the economy even more. You're going to kill the golden goose. You got to get your boot. You got to get the jackboot of government off the neck of the golden goose, jerk. That's the problem. Yeah. So, but it's not a good thing.
One of his plans is to raise the corporate tax to match New Jersey's outrageously high corporate tax.
Which is going to kill more.
Which New Jersey's not enough of a bad example for you of raising it and seeing what happens.
Trump ain't getting 3% growth by following moron Obama policies. Okay, nope. He's doing the exact opposite. Energy, drill, baby. Deregulation. That's how you get and taking the boot of the government off the back of the American middle class. That's how you get growth. But it's scary. This Mandami thing is scary because he's being like the Pied Piper. He's like the Pied Piper of lying and fraudsterism. Now on the one part, there's the whole Obama is just came out and backed him, of course, because Obama hates Jews. He's an anti-Semite, and that's why he gave $150 billion to the Iranian mullah who want to wipe the government, wipe off Israel off the face of the map, right? And this guy is this Mandami creep is a 12 Iman guy, meaning he's a Shia nut job, expecting the Mahdi to come back for the apocalypse. So he's one of these nuts too. And and for all the ginos in all the Jews, and namely only these anti-Semites, George Soros, Karl Marx, Frankfurt School, liberal leftists, they're not liberal, they're leftists, college professor creeps who are anti-Semites, number one, but biggest towards Christianity. This is the snake eating itself. This creep is that's who you're voting for. This creep is going to be throwing gays off of high rises and calling for the death of Jews, of ginos, just like that when he gets in there. Watch. And that's the scary part. This is not a good thing. People are saying New York City should go down, and it's not my New York City anymore. It's not Billy Joel's New York City.
No.
It's not my New York City. But it's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. It's not a good thing.
It's I do think a couple of points I just want to make there. First, you were talking about the energy policy of Trump, and Cheryl's energy policy in New Jersey is the same as his. Raising everything, making it cost. She wants to freeze everything, whereas the Republican model, Jack's model, is he's going to take us out of the Green Plan, the Green New Deal. He's ripping out the Green New Deal, getting rid of the windmills, and he's going to take us out and really open up the market and bring in the
just an aside on that, a dirtbag pedophile, and sue me, you creep. I just want to get your emails with Epstein, right? Bill Gates just came out and said, climate change isn't going to. Now, there's a reason why. It's not because all of a sudden he's seen the light. The light is this, right? The creeps who want to destroy, who hate themselves and hate all human beings. These Malthusians, mediocre. Tolstoy said about Malthus, he was a mediocrity. A malicious mediocrity, right? That's these clowns. That's Michael Mann. That's these climate change hysteric creeps, right? But now, so it's not like they've all of a sudden seen like the light, and now of turning over and become good stewards and good human beings and good Americans. No, it's just there's a new scam now. See, the new scam requires to kill human beings and to destroy America. It's no longer going to be. We're going to be doing it with carbon capture. We're going to say carbon is we're going to say air is a pollution, right? No. It's AI, and the new scam is this. You're hearing it first here, right? Because I watch these trends, right? Is that they need AI because AI will replace us, in the workforce. And then you can just you can destroy the middle class by replacing the middle class with quote AI. And so to do that, you need all these big energy sucking
server farms,
server farms, right? And so now all of a sudden energy. Now you would think that hopefully these creeps realize that poor Mexican Americans, poor working Americans need air conditioning, so they need low cost for energy, and they need for the summer because
to lower the cost of living, John.
The winter, and for the winter they're going to need low electricity, for to run their furnaces and stuff. You would think that that's the reason why they're doing it. No. They have a new scam on destroying and killing the American middle class, and it's AI, and they're going to try and replace us all with AI. Now AI is crap. They just don't know it yet, and they're stupid. But that's why Bill Gates and company have now found the light. And so just to show you how stupid Cheryl is, she hasn't even gone on the new Democrat page. I guarantee you, in 2 years, that's the new Democrat page, right? I guarantee you. And they're going,
John,
look, now we want low energy prices. But don't
it's not just AI though.
Don't fall for it. What?
It's not just AI. It's also the data gathering that they're going to be doing. They need to gather that data because you and I are really we're their market.
So they can get us with kill us with the algorithm.
Yes. Right. And find out where where we're shopping.
Elon Musk.
Yeah. So they can figure out where we're shopping, and then they can start using that for their money making. Because AI is already targeting you when you're talking. There's no big surprise that when you're talking about something to somebody, and then when you do a search, it starts preloading it.
This we're gonna have made in America. We're gonna have that thing like only talk to a real human being, and say anybody that replaces human beings with AI, like when you do for service calls or for which is I'm leaving your company and I'm going to a real company, because first of all it's a fraud. Right, there's all kinds of patent problems because all it does is steal all our data, uses our data, and then comes up with an algorithm. The algorithm, it just predicts the next word, that's most logically to said. There's no intelligence to this, right? There's no actual, it's a myth. It's intelligent. It's not intelligent.
But John, I do have to
keep circling around in circles of saying the same thing over and over again, and then coming up with.
I gotta give you a little pushback on this, Joe. John, I gotta give you a little pushback on this. I know, and I know you've seen it, but there's a number of videos that have been made, memes, that show certain things happening, and like the sombreros being worn, or,
Oh, you're right.
or
I'm all
the
for it.
jets. Those
all
are
for it.
AI created. Those
I'm
are
all for
created.
AI.
So there
I'm
might
all
be
for
a
it.
market here for
There's
us.
a great market. I'm all for it. It's a lot limited than what they think. I'm all for that, though, but you can't trust it because it comes up with fake cases and it comes up with fake medical diagnosis. So you got to watch out. But I'm all
I
for
knew
that for
I knew
that
you'd
purpose
be
for
with me on
creativity.
that.
And
I knew you'd
and
be with me on that.
and if they're going after energy, now that they all have all this energy, the byproduct, which they won't realize, is that all the rest of us will have cheap energy, and then the American economy is going to go pooh because everything is energy, energy, energy. We're going to have
Between the
factories again in
energy
America.
and all the investment, that the trillions of dollars of
The
investment,
$20 trillion that Trumpy's gotten.
even
Right.
John, even if half of that is somehow fiction, and you no matter what you stand,
Now, James, the way it works, the way,
it's going
remember
to
how
create
banking
millions
works.
of jobs.
Remember how banking is working. We could take all the money from the student loans and get rid of it because it's all fake anyway. The banks are allowed double booking, which we know it's not like it's a Wonderful Life where my money is in his house and then that money is in another house, right? No. They open up a ledger, right, and they invent money like the student loan and your mortgage, and then they extract the money out of us for the rest of their lives, right? So you can just wipe that money off, right, like that, right? So, but the other side of that though is for real investment, like the 20 trillion, you can start with 10 trillion. The reason why Jerome Powell is such a scumbag is he's deliberately, for political purposes, keeping the interest rates high. Why? Well, because if you're a business, say you're a Japanese or you're Koreans and you want to make an American factory because it's zero. You can taxes because you can off right. You don't have to wait 20 years to depreciate. You can do it all front load it in the 1 year, the first year of it, right? And the second year, because Trumpy's in there, what you do is you put down 10 billion and you loan out another 10 billion because the rates are cheap. So now you have 20 billion. So you don't have a tiny factory. You got a ginormous factory, right? And that's why the economy really hasn't taken off, because of that dirtbag Jerome Powell, that political hack, that moron Bismarck and his centralized banking. It's got to go. Get rid of the Fed, audit the creeps, lock them all up because they're giving all the favorable, doing all this favorable crap for their friends and the so-called asset class in New York City and Connecticut and those scum, so they don't have to work and do any work, and they can sit off and have their Grey Poupon and their limos and live their dopey type of life, right?
Yeah,
So
it's so amazing because everything that we're talking about, unless you're within grew up in the 80s, 90s, or you're not gonna like the Grey Poupon commercial.
You're not gonna get that reference.
Our age, yeah.
We'll be just like Captain America, monkeys flying out. I got that reference. Captain America, I got that reference. Dorothy.
Yeah. No,
so wait, are we gonna move on?
Or the reference, if you watch the TV show where they talked about J.R.R. Tolkien in the original story. So yeah, we can move on. Let's talk about schools. I just want to give it a few minutes. I want to give it like 7 minutes, and then you'll have 15 minutes for China. How does that sound?
I don't need 15 minutes. I only need like a couple minutes for China.
Okay, well then I'll take longer with the schools. Or we can.
All right.
We can.
Well, I'll do no because we're gonna do shutdown. So let me do China. I'll do China real quick. So China, we just had the amazing sit down with Trump and Xi. All right, and so this is important because it's what's going to be the future. So, but about a year ago, in the second plenum, that's what they call when all the communists get together and they decide what the future of the 5-year plan is. We just had the fourth one just end this week, right? And so, but last year during the second one or third one or whatever, it was theorized that Xi had a stroke. And then over the year, we haven't known. We definitely know things are not the same because he's not flying around anywhere. He's not leaving Korea, and he's not speaking the same way as he did before. Something happened to Xi. We just don't know, and we didn't know what was in charge. Now there are three factions in China. So looking for power right now. There's the Z faction, Pooh Bear, and then there's the technocrats. That's who stole my towel, right? And they're merit. They were raised up on merit. And a unique thing, but they're pretty gutless. And then there's the military faction, right? And so there's two particular military generals that are joined together that are princelings. Now, so the thing about you have to remember about the Chinese, and this is something that they don't even know. They don't even believe. They have a German dirtbag Marxist philosophy. It's not even a Chinese homegrown philosophy that's imposed upon them by the party. Now, the party is a religion. The thing that professional historians were astounded by after the fall of the Soviet Union was that the creeps who started the Soviet Union, Lenin and Stalin, all the rest of them, they believe their own bull crap. Right? They believe that bull crap because it's a religion. But the thing is, it's a temple religion. So, and by that, I mean, it's God does not favor temple religions. The temple religion comes up, the first generation believes that the God is real, right? And so they all believe it, just like the first generation of Mao believes, right? And the first generation of Stalin believed, right? And the second generation, they're looking at the God, go, I don't really believe. By the third generation, they're eating all the God's food. They know the eyes are painted, and they don't believe it. So Gorbachev and the fall of the Soviet Union was really because it's a temple religion. God does not favor it. The hell with the so-called temple religion of Israel. You're wrong. You kill Jesus. That's why God doesn't favor them. That's why the Romans came in and wiped you out. Right? He does not favor. He does not like this. Right? Because it interferes with him and his work. So that's how the fall of the Soviet Union. Well, the third generation is now the generation of Z. And part of the problem is, so after Mao, it was so bad that the different factions of China said, you know what, we're just going to do it this way. You can have a faction, in 5 years you're in charge, and after you, 5 years you're in charge, and after you, 5 years you're in charge. And that worked fine up until Z, who seized all power and has been in charge for 13 years, but has now had a stroke. And it looks like, because of certain factors, his bodyguard has been halved. And then right before the fourth plenum, the fourth meeting where they get together for the 5-year plan, something like 9 of his generals were officially, 9 of Z's generals were officially demoted and accused of crimes and removed, right? And there's something like maybe like 30 other generals out of 60 that have gone missing, right? And so what's theorized is the 2 generals took over the military. Plus they disclosed that Z had his own military unit that he was going to be able to like jump down on Beijing at any time, and they were wiped out, right? Now nobody really knows what's going on. So some genius is working in the White House right now. Maybe it's the good Dr. Gorka, right? Who came up with a brilliant plan. And so they were going to have just a sit down short meeting with Z for only a hour and a half, right? And so, but we still don't know who's in charge. Is it? It's actually who stole my cows. His kids are now up, so it could be the metrocracy part of it, but they don't have any guts. It's really the military, right? And so the question is Z a figurehead, or is he just still playing a game, right? Because this is going to be about whether Taiwan's going to kick off, whether they're still going to get this really aggressiveness that he's been getting, because he's been getting really aggressive about the South China Sea and Taiwan because he's only got a limited time. Despite him talking about living for 150 years, he knows his time is limited, and he wants a legacy. That was this. So they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Coming up this, with Trump battling back and forth about the tariffs and stuff. So anyway, so the fourth plenum ends with basically nothing happening. So the question is, who's in charge? Is it the technocrats who don't have the guts? Is it the 2 generals, the princeling generals who are in charge of the military now, or is it the Z faction? And so one of the things they did is they seized Z's sisters. Like literally a quarter of her Bitcoin, and she's running a one of the these communist Chinese organized crime rings. There's getting all kinds of big money. They literally seized like a quarter of her worth, right? And so just to send a ping, like a radar detection, right up, but they got nothing back from that. So they send it. So Trump released this statement, which is so out of character, which is just a government, actually somebody who knows what they're doing, brilliant plan. And it was, we're going to start doing nuclear testing again. Now, America doesn't need to do nuclear testing. We can do it. If we were going to do it, why were we going to tell anybody? Right? But he did it like 45 minutes before the meeting with Z, because he wanted to see something. They wanted to see if Z is under control and he's going to have to be reading from a script and it's not allowed to say anything, he wouldn't say anything through the meeting, and he didn't say anything from the meeting. So what we can conclude from this brilliant move from Gorka, whoever, is that Xi is not in charge of China anymore, and that so now it could go a couple of different ways. These princelings, they're all about themselves, and they're all about their power, and they could we're going to step back from the aggressiveness of Xi and let it ride. And now it makes sense for them for this way for a couple of reasons. Number one, with Xi as a figurehead, all the bad things are going to happen. They can all put on him, and now they have the power. They can demote him anytime they want. They can cut his head off if they want to, anytime they want. So it could be that the internal flaws of the Chinese economy, which are coming as the wheels of the bus come off, they can point at him. And they say he's all Xi, and they can replace him, and they can do that. Or it could be that as things. The problem with keeping Xi around and the Xi faction around is that you can at any time you can have what China, which is going to break down, happen anyway. It's going to break up internally because that's the history of China, right? And I remember again that this Marxist nonsense is a Jewish, anti-Semite, bigoted, anti-Christian nut job by the name of Karl Marx. Of fake economic policy imposed as a religion, a foreign religion. Talk about colonialism, right? There's no worse colonialism than listening to the idiot German, again another idiot German like Bismarck, imposing their theology upon the Chinese, the Chinese people. The Chinese people have their own history. They want nothing to do. They should have nothing to do with these idiots. So it could be that again, the hand of God, that we're going to have a respite for Trump to rebuild America and disengage from China over the next 2 or 3 years. That's my prediction. That's what this all means. Is that we're going to be able to cut the supply lines. We're going to be able to go back to mine, baby, mine, because I love that Bergman. If there's one guy who should be vice president, it's Bergman, behind JD. Not Marco. I love Marco, but Marco doesn't add anything to the ticket. Bergman, though, is a businessman, and he knows what he's doing, like Trump. So mine, baby, mine. It looks like we might be getting a brief again from the hand of God for America to get its crap together, to get the American economy going, the American industry to going. So that if we have to, we're going to have to put down the evil world that's all circling to try and kill us and destroy American freedom.
I do think that China does have a time limit. Of course, their demographics is against them because their population is getting older, and with their one child rule that they had for so long.
But the demographics though is the monkey problem. That just like there was for the 1812 war, first real World War, there was 10 million too many Frenchmen. Then for World War I, World War II, there was 10 million too many Nazis, too many Germans. They were always Nazis. With the one child policy where they killed off all the females and they only have excess number of males. According to sociology theory, all these extras of males in China are causing all the problems in quote problems in China. They're just they're looking at all this nonsense. Why are we doing this? Why do we have this foreign colonial ideal religion on us where it only benefits 300 million of the princelings of the Chinese princelings? The Chinese Communist Party. Why are we working ourselves to death for these idiots? And so it'll either hopefully break up internally and create a new free China or versions of that, or it could be, the problem is it can always be nationalized, and just like a lot of dictators do, they point to the evil Americans, they point to the evil Brits. They're trying to keep us down, and the next thing you know, you got some guy going woohoo. And
what I meant by that is their demographics to be able to sustain a war or to go to war is disappearing, because as that population grows older, they're not going to be able to do it.
They have the Japan problem, the Korean problem, the American problem, but to a lesser extent. But the America is the only place. It's America alone that doesn't have those problems. And if we do,
what I'm trying to say is they also have additional problems. They don't have just additional problems with the demographics. They also have a resurgent Japan, a resurgent Australia, and a resurgent the Philippines, which all have American backing. And
you're not the Chinese expert anymore.
No, those
you weren't listening. You don't listen to a whole week of the Todd podcast from Lee.
No, all I'm simply
Stop
saying is
pretending.
those countries.
You're just doing the
those-
elections.
those countries are resurgent, and they're going to be part of the blocking force of China against China. So that's part of Trump's
Move on to
triangulation.
schools.
That's part of Trump's. I'm not sure what you're trying to say, but it's
You're
part
not
of
to
Trump's
China.
triangulation.
You're not. You're not the
What?
China. You're not the China expert anymore. I had to be this week.
Well, that's fine, but I'm just simply telling you. I'm trying to put down my.
You want to go back to the Chinese expert? You got to spend the time and stop saying you can talk about schools. Then
I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to point out. Is you have that the first chain of islands, and that first chain is got. It's got Japan, which is building a bunch of their bases, and they're also reestablishing their fleet, which is a whole nother issue we can do next
so
time.
50 minutes. Do your schools.
Let's do schools. All right. So here's when we look at the schools. I just want to point out we're going to talk very briefly about 4 Abbott districts, and there's a reason why we're going to talk about the 4 Abbott districts. I mean, there's a whole bunch more. I think there's 32. The main reason is because in 2021, Governor Murphy attacked Jack Ciattarelli, saying that he didn't like black and brown people, and he mentioned he was referencing these kids in these districts. Now, in the 10 years from 2014 to 2024, we have spent a total of $38 billion in direct financial disbursements to these districts, and we spend another $2 billion in building different schools, different additions, whatever the construction has been to help out these districts. It's been $2 billion. So we're looking at $38 billion, $37.9 billion, if you want to be specific. And as you look at this list, you can see which of these districts got what. We're going to be looking at 4 of these districts. They're highlighted in yellow: Asbury Park, Camden, Newark, and Patterson. Obviously, these are some of the biggest ones and the most notorious of those. Now, the numbers that you see have been taken directly from these school districts' websites with their budget. I've taken it says it as the money that's been dispersed from the state. It's got a special line item that is, I note it as, incoming money. And so you can take that every year. I went painstakingly through every year. The website is not only on the school's website, but it's also on the state's website for the years that I had to go back beyond what they had on their school's website. So the data is legit. The data is discoverable. You can find it on your own if you so wish. So now let's talk about what I'm going to be talking about with their scores. Their scores were all taken from this website, which is the school performance put up by the Department of Education. We're going to be looking at the direct numbers that have come from the 2023/2024 school year, because they have not released the 2024-2025. So, which also fits our numbers, because we're looking at a 10-year time period for money. So that would end at 2024. So we can see what those students were doing, what the state has accomplished in that 10 years. So in other words, if they spent $40 billion on those districts in that time period, you would expect somewhere where their numbers would be high. Correct, brother? I mean, you would expect their numbers to be in the higher numbers of 80, having invested that much money, which is the equivalent to Chris Christie's largest budget during his 8 years. His largest budget was $35 billion and change billion dollars, and we have spent more than that in the 10 years. So when we look at that, let's start with our first district here. These are the Newark district. Now, once again, going back to the numbers, Newark, we have spent $6.6 billion in 10 years. And with the Newark Public Schools, you see on your screen the ELA, which is language arts, and the math proficiency scores. The highest number that these scores have is 31.8 in 2023. So that means less than a third of the students can read and write at grade level. Something to think about. When we look at math, the highest number is 19%. That means less than 1/5 of the students in this school district, Newark, can do math at grade level. The most troubling of all this, because one of the other things that have been said repeatedly by Governor Murphy and Democrats throughout the entire last 10 years, is New Jersey has the best schools in the country. Well, at the bottom of this screen, down here where my mouse is, you'll see that it has the 2023 EL scores, and it's the statewide proficiency rate for federal accountability. That number, the statewide proficiency, in other words, across the entire state, you take the highs, you take the lows, like this district, for language arts, is 52.2%. So half of the kids in the schools in New Jersey can read and write, and the other half can't read and write at at the grade level. When we look at math, which is over here in the corner for the same thing, it is 40.2%. So again, 40% or 40% of students in the state of New Jersey can do math at grade level. That means 60% cannot do math at grade level. And many of those are graduating. That's across the board. We'll be seeing this number again, but that's just for Newark. So you can see where Newark is. We're not talking about science yet. We're just looking at Newark Public Schools. You can see, for those of you who can't see, highlighted on the screen now, it says Newark Public Schools. You can again discover this material on your own by going to this website, or I should say this website, which is the state's school performance reports, and it has every single district in the state of New Jersey. All right, let's go into our next district, Asbury Park. As you can see, Asbury Park, for their language arts, 14.5% can read and write. That means 85% can't read and write at grade level. Over here in math, the number is so low that they cannot put it on display because it would reveal who the person is. So accountability calculations require 20 or more students. So they have less than 20 students that are at grade level in math in Asbury Park. That hasn't changed in 3 years. You understand? 3 years has been like that. It's been longer than that, but that's what's on the screen right now. You could go look for yourself if you wish. And again, down here, here's 52.2 for the state proficiency and 40.2 for math. Again, those numbers are the same. Here we have Patterson. This is science, John. This is the science in Patterson. Now, just for numbers' sakes, the Patterson has spent $3.5 billion. $3.5 billion in 10 years. And they have 2% for science. You can see the NJSLA Science Grade 11 summary. 2% are at science grade level, they're proficient at grade level. That means 98% for those of you who went to one of those school districts and you can't do math at grade level. 98% of you cannot do science at grade level. In a state where they want to have this great rebirth, the Democrats want to have a great rebirth. They can't even teach the kids in Patterson how to do science. So when we look at our last district, Camden, and once again, when we look at Camden, Camden spends $2.4 billion in 10 years given to them from the state in direct disbursements. What Camden has created, they have 12.6% of students in Camden schools are reading at grade level. That means, again, 87.4% are not reading at grade level. And again, we have in Camden the same problem we had in Asbury Park. No students are reading at grade level or doing math at their grade level. And John, this is just a snapshot of 4 of those districts. I think all of the others, except for Jersey City, has shown improvement. I think it's Jersey City or maybe it's Hoboken. There's only one or two other districts that have shown some form of improvement, and it's just the point I'm trying to make is this money has been put into these districts, and I'm not condemning the teachers, I'm not condemning the students, I'm not condemning the parents, I'm condemning the state. I'm condemning the state because you spent that kind of money and the return of that investment has been nil. You would think, and to be clear, that's only a 10-year, snapshot. This has been a problem since the 80s. So this is not an overnight problem. This is a problem since at least the 80s, if not since 2003 or 2004. And no one is doing anything to fix it. Jack Chitterelli, and just to be clear, Mickey Sherrill's plan is let's continue to do the same. So her plan is let's continue to have these crummy scores. Jack's score is a plan is to have an high impact curriculum that has worked already in states like Mississippi and Louisiana, have a high impact, and the numbers prove that out, impact curriculum, which instead of having kids graduate every year from one year to the next without being aware, not being knowledgeable, you have those students put aside other things and you drill them on the material that they're missing. He's also going to do something else. Get rid of your DEI in schools. This idea where you should be teaching kids emotions and talking about sex ed in second grade, which we've already covered, where they've shown things like cartoon versions of female and male genitalia to teach them in second grade. We've shown this. I've proved this in previous videos. Watch them on your own. I'm not going to prove it here again because we don't have the time. But these things will be going to the ash heap of history. They will be done, and they will not be acceptable in a state run by Jack Chitterelli as governor. So it's a very simple choice to make on Tuesday. The simple choice is: do you want to have a state where you're going to have the state getting better and the state's going to have change that's going to actually be an improvement, where we're going to see kids start to learn how to read? Our daughters are going to be safe in their locker rooms. Our children are going to be they're going to be learning, and they can feel safe on their streets. Are we going to have that kind of state? Or are we going to have more of the same nonsense where kids can't do math and they can't read and they don't understand science? What's it going to be? Because the way it's going now, we're going the way of California. High in debt, unable to pay our bills. People are leaving the state, and we're only getting people who are sanctuary state illegal aliens who want to live off the system that we can't afford. This is a clear decision, brother. And that's really all I needed to actually, I think it's all I needed to talk about with the schools, because it's damns the Democrats. They're responsible for this. They're the ones who've been in charge of the Assembly, the Senate, and the governor's mansion for the majority of the last 30 years. And so who's been running the show? The Democrats. And especially Phil Murphy, who has gone out of his way to implement these policies like the SEL. And I want to dispel a myth. These scores are not this way because of COVID. This predates those 3 years of COVID, right? 3 years of COVID, but there's 9 years or 11 years of students who didn't have COVID affecting them during their learning years. And where are the numbers on that? I mean, you can't. They should be outweighing this. It should be at least in the 70s, 60s, or 70s in these districts, and it's not. It's not, brother. And the reason is because of these policies where we're talking about gender, sex orientation in the 3 years, first, second, third, and kindergarten too, 4 years, when you teach kids to read so they can learn to read later on. And when you teach them their math so they can do their math and have the basics of their math and reading and science to some extent, but they have their basics for math and reading so that when they do go on to science and they do go on to higher grades, those basics are solid and firm. These kids are going on into their fourth, fifth, sixth grades, and they're unable to read and write, and it's compounding the problem. Why? Because even in fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, they're still teaching the gender, they're still teaching you the sex ed, they're still teaching all the other things that are stuff that those kids shouldn't hear. And I'm tired of hearing, well, they're going to see it on the internet anyway. That's just simply a cop out. That's a cop out. It's not because John, I'm going to say when I was teaching, when I went to school for education I graduated in '94. I was told by every single professor that I had, every single one, if a kid starts talking to you about sex or relationships or whatever, you direct him to the counselor. You don't have that conversation because you don't want to get accused of something inappropriate and improper. Nowadays, they're being taught in schools to embrace that. They're being told by their administrators to embrace that. No, they're doing stuff where they're doing these lessons in class, SEL, social emotional learning. No, I just read a live report that says it actually helps teach kids and helps improve scores. No, it doesn't. What's improving the scores now is because the kids haven't been locked down for COVID, and the kids are actually learning something. And so when they're learning something, their scores are going to go up a little bit, but their scores should be like John. You were talking about the economy should be taken off. Their scores should be taken off. Our scores should be flying to the roof because they're not sitting in a on looking at a screen at home being locked down. But they're not taking off. They're sinking because our schools are failing. And Jack says he's going to bring in a voucher system. I think that's competition for schools is good. You're not going to hear me to argue that. And you know what, John? We need schools that are going to promote trades. And to get to your point about the education, because you mentioned about the big cost. I know I'm moving about the big cost for financial.
Underlay.
We have a bunch of schools that are colleges and universities that are creating crummy, useless degrees, and these kids are taking out giant loans and they're sinking their future with these giant, useless loans that are for useless degrees. And because of that, and they're getting crummy education. It used to be when you went to Harvard or Stanford or those big Ivy Leagues. Like our mother went to University of Pennsylvania, and that was a great degree for her to get. Even though Chestnut Hill was just as good for some, that the professor said. Nowadays, going to an Ivy League means that you're probably worse off than the state colleges, and where you got to pay your own way. It's probably you're worse off having an Ivy League education, and that's all I got to say about that, brother.
All right, I guess we'll go on to the shutdown next week. Hopefully, it'll still be going on.
We can do the shutdown. We can do the shutdown right now. It's very simple. You ready?
Gotta go.
No, here's the shutdown in 2 minutes or less. The Democrats are the ones at fault.
I gotta go.
The Democrats are the ones at fault because they're not approving the clean resolution, and the reason why they're not is because they want to give illegals insurance that you and I, $1.5 trillion that they want you and I to pay for. There you go, brother. Less than 2 minutes.
Good.
That was a minute.
All right.
Hey, brother, remember, it's all good.
Because God loves you.
Because God loves you. Take care, everybody.
Okay.
Well, we're being televised now.
It's not unusual that we televise executions, Mr. Wordsworth. Last year in the mass executions, we televised around the clock. 1,300 people were put to death in less than 6 hours.
Now drop and give me 20.
History teaches you nothing.
On the contrary, history teaches us a great deal. We had predecessors, Mr. Wordsworth,
You mean like
who had
Democrats?
the beginnings of the right
What the
idea.
hell is
But their
supposed to
era
be,
was not one
moron?
of excess. It was simply not going far enough.